Well, hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to my little gardening show. I had a little free time being Sunday afternoon to just kind of putz around in the basement here, and I thought I would take you guys along as we look at the seed collection that I've got, kind of talk about, the warm weather, cold weather crops, planting dates, planting, when you want to start these various vegetables, and then some ideas in the future, some things that I'd like to do. So let's get started. And here we are. This is my seed collection, the majority of it anyway. I've got a lot of warm weather stuff, which is, things that I grew this past season and saved seeds from. Putting them in these coin envelopes worked out pretty well. And I've got the cold weather, the brassicas, onions, kale, stuff like that, that are basically leftover seeds from stuff that I grew a year or two ago. Well, I guess 2 years ago. The reason why I don't have, seeds saved from these crops is because I didn't grow very many of these. Because they never made it past the seed starts or the little plants. I've got a video you might want to check out. It's called The Saddest Day Ever. It kind of talks about what happened to my plants, my babies that I had going last year. Basically, we had a new dog, and she did not play nice. And ultimately, we ended up finding her a different home where she'd be happy, because we had a miniature dachshund already, and I think that was part of it. She just was a little high-strung and put out and just didn't fit in with the family, so we found her a home where she'd get more attention and just be better off. So anyway, that's why I don't have my own seeds from these, because I didn't have very many of these crops planted last year, with the exception of the Nero de Toscana. But it never produced a seed stock, because I think it's a biennial, and none of mine made it through the winter this year. It got, sub-zero temperatures and whatnot, and I didn't have any protection over them. So anyway, I've got it all laid out. And so now I'm just thinking about planting dates. Looking at what I have. In general, your cooler weather stuff, at least at the zone I live in, the first thing or things that I would plant or start from seed would be my onions and celery. It takes at least 12 weeks to get them to sprout and grow to a decent size to where you can set them out in the garden. Start the seeds usually about the third to last weekend of January. So ideally, I'd like to do them today if I can get my seed starting mix. My wife, she's out shopping with my daughter, and she may pick up a bag of that stuff for me. It's basically a pro mix, a seedless or a soilless grow mix that I use. It's worked out really well to start seeds. I'm hoping to get some today because I'm out. So I'd like to start some today. If not, we're going to go probably next weekend and try to keep them on the weekends. That's usually when I have time because of my work schedule and whatnot. Sundays are usually free, so Sunday afternoons, spend time gardening. Then I give them 12 weeks, which would time it so that they're ready to set out about towards the end of March, which is good for our area because in our area we don't have much of a spring, really. I mean, the winter's pretty harsh, relatively speaking. And we're getting snow sometimes up to beginning of April and whatnot. And then the temperatures there's just a pretty wild swing. There's days that it's up in the 70s, days in the 50s. So spring is kind of chaotic, but anyway, we would time it so that around the middle of March, starting the onions again towards the end of January, around middle to end of March, they'd be ready to go. We'd have nice sets to put out. as far as the broccoli, the cauliflower, kohlrabi, all the cooler weather stuff, we would start that around the middle of February. So probably February 15th, that Sunday. Again, we'd be down here starting seeds because they take usually about 6 weeks to get pretty nice size. The point that they can stand the weather. They got good foliage. We can harden them off and whatnot. It's around 6 weeks. Then the next set would be the warm weather stuff. Basically the tomatoes, the peppers, the eggplant. We would start that around mid-March because it takes around 8 weeks. The catalogs say 6 weeks, whatnot, which, yeah, I suppose so if the conditions are optimum, but for us it's about 8 weeks to get them decent size. So about March 15th or mid-March, somewhere in this time frame, and you don't have to be super exact on this stuff. Within a couple weeks, you're fine if you're just a home gardener doing this for fun. So mid-March, so that times it then that I would be setting these out in the garden, after hardening them off and everything, around mid-May, which is Mother's Day. Mother's Day weekend around our area in our zone is about the time you can plant without having to worry about frost. I think part of why stuff takes a little bit longer to germinate, for me anyway, is because, I'm starting everything in the basement here. And the temperature down here is like 55 degrees consistently because we're about 8 foot down. And, we're in an old house here where, back in the old days, they used this area as like a root cellar. So temperature is consistent. I've got a little heat mat, a little setup that we'll use to basically coax these warm weather seeds to sprout, because really it's the soil temperature and moisture that is going to prompt these seeds to come out. And then once they're out and they have their foliage, then you need a light source really to get them going so they can do the photosynthesis thing and continue to grow. And then once they got their true leaves, you want to start feeding them because they've exhausted basically the nutrients that's in the seed. So that's kind of the method of my madness. Not too complex, but I'm going to try to take better notes this year and just kind of track, what I'm doing, maybe the conditions, how long it took to get stuff going. But just going on the past couple years, that's generally speaking the time frames on the various vegetables to get them to sprout and be ready to put out in the garden. You guys see my seed collection here. If there's for those of you who are watching the videos or whatnot, checking in, if you're interested in swapping seeds, maybe you see something here that you'd like to try, I'd be interested in swapping with you, maybe mailing you some seeds, or doing something. I guess if that's something you're interested in, feel free to contact me, send me a message, whatnot, over YouTube, and we can maybe work something out. Other than that, some things that I'd like to try. I saw something. Elliot Coleman's got a lot of cool videos. He's a big organic gardener, I think, up in like Vermont. Anyway, when he's starting seeds, he uses soil blocks instead of your traditional seed trays with inserts. He's using soil blocks that he makes by just plunging this device in like a soil mix, and then you pull a lever to force the blocks out, and they create little like 1 inch, I think that's smallest size, like 21-inch blocks at one time with a little depression so you can put your seed in. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. Apparently, one of them is that as the plants grow, they're basically the air prunes them. So once they reach the uh, outer parts of the seed block, they're kind of pruned off by the air. That it prevents them then from like spiraling, like if you grew them in a cup or something like that, or a seed insert, a tray insert, you had to prime out, and the plant's all root bound, where the roots kept growing and just kind of spinning around themselves. Whereas in a soil block, they go out and then they stop. Once they get to that, you would just move them up to the next larger, a larger size block. So anyway, I'm hoping to get one of those and just try it out, see how it works. Other than that, not a whole lot else is going on. Just trying to enjoy some free time here. So if you have any questions, or again are interested in maybe swapping some seeds, or whatever, feel free to contact me. So I guess that's it. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye.